Our next speaker is going to be Anastasiya Stepanova. I first met Anastasia when Hope and I went to Russia in 2013, and she was one of the people to help arrange our tour there. And she became so inspired by what the Mars Society was doing that she decided to go back to school. She became an engineer, and she has participated in both Mars Society activities. She was a member of the Mars 160 crew, and I must say was a real trooper. She had a visa problem that stopped her from getting to America until the crew was already on Resolute Bay, ready to leave for Devon Island. And finally her visa came through and she did a mad dash from Moscow to Los Angeles to Toronto to Ottawa to whatever, to 6 different islands, and finally made it to Resolute Bay just before the crew took off for the island. So that was fantastic. She's now a researcher at the Institute for Biomedical Problems in Moscow, where they did the Mars 500 mission and the Sirius mission. And now she herself is engaged in a long-term zero gravity isolation and health effects mission. So without further ado, here's Anastasiya Stepanova.
Hello, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to give a talk at Mars Society Convention. It became my Martian family, so I'm very happy to do that again. Okay, so I've been taking part in isolation experiment held by Institute of Biomedical Problems, which was founded in 60s in order to help humans to stay safely, healthy, and comfortably in space. So we study space medicine and space biology. And yes, we did a lot of isolation experiments, but also we are famous for dry immersion experiment. The history of this experiment starts a long time ago, when the Soyuz 9 mission in 1970s had 17 days flying in spaceship. And of course, spaceship was small, so 2 cosmonauts didn't have much of the movement. So when they landed back to Earth, they couldn't even stand by themselves. They had really bad muscle atrophy and heart problems. And this situation led to the question, what can we do here on Earth as a countermeasures for negative effect of microgravity? So our scientists decided to have a dry immersion experiment. But first it was actually wet immersion. Test subjects were laying in a bath and they were actually touching the water, which led to skin problems, and also the oil from skin of the test subject caused health problems. After that, it was decided to have a dry immersion, which is a bath filled with warm water, and this water is always between 32 degree or 34, it depends what test subject will ask you, which is more comfortable for him. And it covered with a waterproof film, so the test subject is actually not touching the water itself. And the longest experiment was carried out by its creators, and it was in 1974. It's 56 days. Back then was proven that it's quite good model of microgravity effect on human body. Of course, we have another microgravity simulation, which is parabolic flights, but you have only 20-30 seconds of it, so you can't really test how the muscle atrophy evolve, and you can't bring a lot of equipment to test different techniques. Of course, many would ask, why would we need dry immersion if we have astronauts and cosmonauts flying to ISS? It's still a small number of statistics, and you can't bring all the equipment to ISS because it's very expensive. And every year we have some new ideas, new devices to create countermeasures for negative effect of microgravity and actually to test it here on Earth. So for this dry immersion is quite perfect model. And in order to have real effect of microgravity, you need to have simultaneously three factors. It's a lack of support, so you're floating, and this is the key in postural muscular system. Second, it's limitation in motor activity. We call it hypodynamia and hypokinesia. So hypodynamia, it's usually decrease in postural muscular load, and hypokinesia is decrease in physical activity in general. And third factor is hydrostatic compression, basically compression of surface tissue and blood vessels, which leads to redistribution of blood from lower part of the body to upper part of the body. And all of that we have in dry immersion. So usually in the modern days, we had dry immersion for duration of 3, 5, 7, and 21 days. And until October the 3rd, 2020, dry immersion was only with male test subject. Dry immersion beds are not only in Institute of Biomedical Problems, but also in France, in MEDES. And that's it, only in 2 places in the world. And I didn't believe that for the first time, I was the first female test subject in such an experiment. Of course, in Russia, we had only 4 women who flew to space, so there is not much of statistics on how women body reacts to microgravity. And therefore, we are starting now the series of dry immersion experiments with female test subject. In this year, we would have 6 test subjects. So on the 3rd of October, I started the dry immersion experiment. And next day, Yelena Luchitskaya, my co-partner, she started her dry immersion experiment. So we've been laying down there for 3 days. And we had 24/7 shifts with a doctor on duty, technician, and helper. He was, or she was doing everything that we asked, basically bringing food, toilet, and whatever we ask, which is not, of course, the best job, but the team was really amazing and supportive, and they treated it as a real space mission. In this experiment, we had more than 20 experiments. So, of course, before the dry immersion starts, we tested all of them to have all the data, how we behave, how our body behaves in the normal Earth conditions. Then we had some experiments during the dry immersion, and of course after, which is really the most interesting and crucial data that our scientists got. And I will tell you a bit about them. So for example, experiment food. It's interesting that during microgravity, during flying on ISS, some cosmonauts had flat feet. That is effect of microgravity, and that you don't really use your food. So it also, the shape of it changes. And you can see here, it's a special device that scans your feet. And then here on the right, you see special points, which shows the difference before and after. Next experiment is Dynamometer. Basically, it's the study of precision of hand movements. Special device that that you see here in my right hand. It's quite hard to squeeze it, so you have to do it, and then in another session you have to do it start to do it from a small movement, then harder, and the maximum, and then the opposite. And again, you do it with the closed eyes, so you can see your improvement. It's quite interesting. And after this session, they give you the list where there is a colors, just red, green, blue, and yellow. just the words, and you have to read them very fast. Then they give you the colors itself, and you have to name them also very fast. And then they give you again the words red, green, blue, but all colored in different colors. And you have to read it no matter which colors they're painted. This to test your cognitive abilities and how they're changing also, and how this connects with your hand movement. Another experiment is Ash Reflex. Basically, it's how your leg muscles respond to a small electrical stimulation. And interesting that in the beginning, before the dry immersion, my pain limit was quite high. And after dry immersion, yes, it was much lower. So this really changes even in 3 days. Microcirculation, here we study also the state of microvascular veins. And you can see here on the right picture, the circulation of my veins on a monitor. Pose, it's really interesting experiment. So you have to stand on a firm surface with closed eyes and start nodding with your head. Then they give you a soft surface and you do the same. After that, you stand again on a firm surface and they push you. And you're with closed eyes, so you don't know when will be the push and how hard it will be. It starts with quite soft push and then with harder one, and they wait when you stumble. After that, you close your eyes and have to walk the line. So imagine that this experiment was held just after they take you out from the bath on the 3rd day and transform you horizontally. And the first time you ever stand horizontally, it's this experiment pose. And of course, there was situation with other test subjects in the past when they fainted or fall, or they couldn't do proper movement. And I remember my experience when finally I was standing there vertically and had to do all this exercise. My heart started to pump quite fast because it usually was in horizontal position. And also I start to sweat a little bit. But if you concentrate, you can do it great. And funny that there came people from even other laboratories just to look how I would fall, or maybe not, but yeah, they were surprised that I didn't fail, so that's good. And the next experiment, we had, of course, a little bit of psychology and psychological support. 2 times per day, I had to record small videos of how I feel, not only physically, but also mentally. Then do a cognitive test. One of them is Lucier test, maybe you heard of it, when you have to choose from the most likable color to the least unlikable. And other experiments on your memory, also the calculation. And so also they test how these cognitive abilities change over the time of dry immersion. As psychological support, we used VR, and it's actually very immersive. For example, I chose video with skydiving, and you're floating, and also you have the video of skydiving. The effect was really great. I felt that I'm really diving and landing on Earth. So I think we can also use it for real space flights. Another experiment is tone. Tone is using special device. We have to record the response of muscles to mechanical touch with the probe with only a force of 0.4 Newton. And interesting that I didn't even feel this touch, but my muscles already reacted. And here on the picture, you see the experiment CMS, which is basically the magnetic impulses sent to your brain, and your muscles contract. So here you see not the blood on my head. Actually, this is the red mark, and where they have to put this black device. So they send magnetic impulse starting from 40% and reaching to 100. And it's really impressive. So before immersion, I react totally normal. Maybe my left leg was a little bit moving, but that's it. And after dry immersion, when there was a magnetic signal sent to my brain, my both legs were jumping. So that's really interesting how body reacted to that. And how, of course, we've been living in this bath for 3 days. Hygiene and daily routine. Whenever we had to eat, to brush teeth or do some experiments, they were giving us pillows so we could kind of like sit. But all of other time we were laying down. And of course, was interesting moment with the toilet. Since for peeing for men it's much easier than for women, our employee Svetlana Lebedeva, she created a special device, and as you can see there are several funnels and pump, and this is the prototype. So we've been also testing prototype toilet system, and it's quite complicated because your body used to do it vertically, and here you have to be horizontally, and plus without any support for your body, so you're floating. And very interesting psychological blocks also occur. All your life, especially your childhood, you've been taught not to spill, right? Not to pee in your bed. And here you have to do opposite, because you test this prototype, you have to relax and just test it. All our scientists were saying, Anastasia, don't worry if you spill it and we will clean everything. You know, we just need to test this prototype and make it as comfortable as possible. So this process took quite a long time, and we've been adapting to this for several days. And of course you would think, okay, so what to do with number 2? Every day we had 15 minutes for a shower and for number 2. They take us out, move horizontally to the special bath that you can see on the right, and you have to take a shower horizontally. That's also really unusual experience, and everything takes much longer time, and 15 minutes is so short for 2 main duties, which is number 2 and shower. So when the 15 minutes end, they take you out no matter what. Why 15 minutes? Because if it's longer than 15 minutes, then the effect of microgravity can be as not good as, you know, if less than 15 minutes. And yes, so apart from that, of course, different test subject body. Usually when it was with men, most thing that they faced was back pain. Your spine decompress, and that can cause back pain. For example, in 2 days, I gained 1.5 centimeter, and I lost 2 kilograms. But basically, I lost a liquid because of redistribution of fluid in your body, and that your organism is so smart, it wants to lower the pressure, blood pressure, and it starts to get rid of the liquid. So in the first day, I lost 2 liters. And the change is so rapid, and your body keeps surprising you how it reacts to this really unusual environment. And it's interesting that 3 days, there is adaptation of the body, and then after 3 days, you finally start to feel good. But we didn't have this opportunity, so we just started to adaptate to dry immersion, to microgravity, and then they took us out, and we had to readaptate to earth gravity, which was a really interesting feeling. Of course, it's not as easy as many would think, that you're just laying down on like in a bath, and that's cool. Everyone was saying, oh, I would like to do that. It's good for first few hours, and actually we have these dry immersion beds in clinics, because it can really help old people and people with needs. But when you stay there for several days, you feel really different effect, and very challenging. And of course, you can all get through this if you have sense of humor. Hear how we had fun with my partner in crime. And I'm ready to have a questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anastasia. This is Carrie Faye. Following you along with this on your Facebook posts were just amazing to me. And so your first question is actually for me. What do you think was the hardest, most difficult thing that you had to endure during this entire process?
Oh, I'm ashamed to say that, but actually to learn how to pee. Yes, it was quite complicated, and you're really surprised how such an easy thing that you do usually in your life becomes so challenging there in space.
Wonderful. The next question I'm going to ask you comes from Dr. Robert Slater. He is asking, can you simulate the counter effects of exercise in space and see how that impacts the subjects in dry immersion to see if those attempts on the space station are working?
Yes, in previous dry immersion experiments, they had electrostimulation. So basically 2 hours of electric stimulation on your leg muscles worth of 2 hours of walking in a park. So yeah, we tested this also.
Great, your next question is going to come from Lucinda.
Oh, thanks, Carrie. Anastasia, it's so great to hear your talk, and I know that you did a lot of work with Sirius, and I was wondering, what's coming up for Sirius? I think you did a 4-month mission. What's going on with that? What's next?
Yes, next we will have 8 months a Sirius mission. I won't be in the crew, but I'm helping to organize it and to make this mission as interesting and comfortable for next crew as possible.
I was wondering, what kind of experiments are they going to do for the new missions? I think you told me you were part of helping out with experiments with IBMP.
Yes, basically they would have the same experiment that were in 4 months, because NASA human research programs, they want to have the same experiments, the same environment, and just different duration, like 4 months, 8 months, then we have 1 year and 1 year again. So we will just change the crews, but all the experiments, it's about 90 experiments. It's on physiology, psychology, microbiology, immune system.
Calvin here has a question. How was your sleep affected? Did you sleep more, less, short naps?
Oh, right. Yes, forgot to talk about that. The first night I was waking up around like 3 times, but just to change the position, but you can do much. You can, sleep on your belly. So you try to find something different. Second night I slept like a baby. And last night was not, I woke up at 4 a.m. and maybe I was too excited about it. I will be getting out of the dry immersion. I don't know, maybe it was adaptation, but yeah, I had just maybe 5 hours of sleep.
Anastasia, your next question is from Anna Lyon. And she's actually in London, and she would like to know how you are feeling in the aftermath of the experiment, and do you have any other experiments lined up?
Yes, I actually, after the dry immersion finished, I was sleeping so good. But interesting thing, for the next 3 nights that I slept on Earth, the moment when I was waking up, I felt that I'm floating. So this effect kind of lasted. And also after experiment finishes, you have like about 5 days of all the tests and experiments that can record the changes. So also there were changes even in my heart muscle only in 3 days, which is crazy how fast your organism can, adapt to something new. And also next, the last question that you said, what's next? Well, I don't know. We'll see. I'm looking forward to be in other new experiments. And again, I will try harder to get to space program. So yeah, we'll work on that.
Thank you so much, Anastasia. We have time for one more question. There's a few questions asking about, to tell us just a little more about the psychological experiences. If you could maybe pick one to tell us with the time remaining, that would be wonderful.
To tell about what kind of psychological experiment was, or my experience? Sorry.
Your experience.
Okay. Okay, so this is not for people who are claustrophobic, for sure. And I was thinking that I started with Mars 160 program at MDRS. So there we had isolation, but we still could go out in spacesuits. Then I got to IBMP project where we were isolated and we couldn't even get out. We didn't see the sunlight, nature, nothing. And now I put myself even in more confined space. So now I was in one room in a small bath and covered with foil with water. So you had all the time pressure of the water on your legs, on your stomach. And for some people, of course, it can be scary, very uncomfortable. But it's all in your mindset. If you understand why you're doing this and also the high motivation of it, for me, it was very important to show that women are as good as men to fly to space, to be in those challenges, and that we are quite robust. So for me, it was really high motivational experience. And I think if not the like small difficulties with just hygiene stuff, then it will be very, very light for me and easy. And I would love to try to be in a longer one, like 5 or 7 days.
Okay. Hello, Anastasia. I've got a question for you, which is that you're going to do an 8-month Sirius experiment. Are you looking for volunteers? If Mars Society members want to volunteer to be in the crew, to what address should they send their resume?
Yes, of course, we're still looking for volunteers for 8 months. So they can write me on social media and I will be happy to choose someone.
All right, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anastasia.
From Russia with love.